Hello, and welcome to the Oracle report for June of 2025. So happy you're tuning in, and I hope you receive some jewels and support through our time today. So I come on here every fourth Sunday and share different wisdoms, collective messages, sometimes pieces from astrology or dreams, channeling, different things that I've gathered that seem to be collective messages, themes, wisdoms meant to help guide and align you in the month ahead. So I start off by sharing a bit of information about these different themes that come through. And actually, I will be starting today. Been trying this out the last couple of times and I'm liking how it's flowing. But starting with choosing a card for the collective rather than finishing with choosing a card for the collective. So I'll start with that today. And today we are pulling a card from the Healing Waters Oracle by Rebecca Campbell. So after we pull that card, I will weave that information that comes through with the card into the themes that are present for today. And yeah, I just suggest that you listen with an open mind, an open heart. You don't have to stick to anything or receive um, something that doesn't feel aligned for you. And it might make sense right away. It might make sense as you go forward in the month. It might apply to you a little bit. It might apply to you a lot. And it can apply in creative ways too. So keep your mind and heart and energy open to those kind of non-linear ways the messages might be offering something for you. As an example, sometimes there could be, say, like a word I say where you feel something and it's not exactly the meaning that I'm describing that is meant for you, but it might unfold later. Say, whatever I described you see out in the world, and that was kind of guiding you some way to, redirect or look into something a little bit deeper that you might not have normally. So things can come up like that. And there's information that we're receiving on many different levels. So allow yourself to just be open to that and know that you will absorb whatever it is that you need. It's also fun to kind of match it up to your own intuition about the upcoming month and, just like balance that against each other. And it's helpful in your own process of understanding the collective energetics and the wisdoms that are alive. Okay, so let's start with a card. These are so pretty. Probably one of my favorite things about uh, Rebecca Campbell's cards. The art is just really, really lovely, soothing. Card for the collective for the month of June 2025. Okay, hold on. Too many popping out there again. All right. So we've got she who flows, ease, being open to change, go with the flow of life. And give this a read. Water is the most powerful force on our planet. It has the potential to destroy everything in its path or be embracing, still, and gentle. When a river meets a rock, it doesn't try to move it. Instead, it embraces it and flows around it. Doesn't question why the rock is there, it sees it as part of its path. Water teaches us how to flow with life, how to greet the obstacles on our path with open arms and receive life fully. In this way, the world's waters literally shaped and crafted the entire landscape of the planet that we know and love today. Mountains and valleys, coastlines and woodlands, all are the result of water embracing life. The ancient Greek goddess Rhea was the daughter of Gaia and Uranus, heaven and earth. She's also referred to as Sibyl, mother of us all. In his work, Cratylus, not sure how to say that, the philosopher Plato referred to Rhea as a stream or she who flows. Perhaps Rhea herself has much to share with us about how to truly flow with what appears on our journey, whether expected or unexpected. Call upon her to support you in embracing any unexpected changes you're facing. This card invites us to stop seeing the unexpected things in life as obstacles and instead to treat them as invitations to embrace life, to find a way to soften and embrace what occurs rather than try to avoid or fight it, to flow with rather than resist. Yeah, that I like how that fits in. It's kind of an interesting way that it fits into a couple of messages that have come forth today, particularly about, yeah, working with the difficult things that come up in or around us and how to work with them in a way that stays like truly aligned, truly balanced. In seeing these difficult things that come up, I think this might have even been a particular message that came up for last month, where there was this invitation to work with all obstacles as part of the path. That's definitely been something that has been coming through lately. And these obstacles, yeah, again, they could be internal or external. So internally, we could feel depressed, we could feel like trapped in addiction, we could feel trapped in any of those kind of binding powers that we experience being human. Or we could work with those forces internally or the situations that come up externally that we don't feel, say, we have control over and we might not be happy about, to actually alchemize into more light, alchemize into more truth, into more love, into a deeper expression of ourselves. And when we kind of get stuck in this place of seeing those internal and external obstacles as something like negative, it's almost like we lose a bit of our power to alchemize it, to work with it. But when we can shift our perspective a bit, and I feel like this is part of what the card is saying, to see it as like part of the path, part of what we work with actually to get to where we want to go, rather than something, foiling everything, then we're able to do that, to accomplish that. That's how we kind of liberate ourselves into being in flow again, rather than, I mean, we all have maybe human emotions about these different situations that might come up, or internal struggles, attachments, and the idea isn't necessarily to bypass that, because that is an important part of working with and alchemizing any obstacle into higher wisdom, fullness, expression, truth, and love. So we need to feel in truth, in authenticity, and work with it from that place in order to actually alchemize it. So I'd say, um, part of what you could consider with this card as you go through the month of June is just like watching yourself, when you might be getting stuck in places of that kind of binding lower level consciousness aspect of this human journey. Because that awareness is really just so, it's so much of the work that needs to be done. It's not all the work, but just being aware of what's happening starts to shift things on its own. So watching, when am I kind of ruminating or getting stuck in um, places of detachment, longing, anger, depression, um, hopelessness, you know, and seeing if you can come into kind of that observer place, that place that does feel a bit more anchored, safe, aligned, witnessing that aspect of yourself that has that remembrance of fluidity, remembrance of this soft, flowing, beautiful way that we get to work with life. And I'll kind of jump in to some of the messages because this does attach up pretty well. Um, where to start first? Okay, so one of the themes that has been coming forward is about this collective energy that is present for us to work with. Um, it's basically creativity. It's creative energy, the energy from the sacral chakra. So just below the belly button. And this is the place of, it can be the place of our desires and our longings. It can be the place of sexual energy, sensuality, and creativity. So the guides are bringing it up in this particular way, where we as a collective will see this expressing differently, but it's generally in the terms or in the category of creativity, sexuality, desire, and our dreams. So, what we wish to create in the world. And dreams can also connect to the heart, too, obviously. And there's a really important and powerful connection between the sacral and the heart when you want to work with these energies in the way that is for the highest for you. And actually, those of you who know me know that I've been a part of, or I am a part of this beautiful collaborative book, the Magdalene Oracle, Awakening the Power of the Rose, where I've contributed a chapter. It's coming out in July on Mary Magdalene's feast day, so July 22nd. I'm very just like, filled with light and excitement, and I feel deeply rooted into the healing power that it will bring to the collective. But I bring it forward because in my chapter, I do share a bit about ways to work with the sacral, ways to work with desire, and the connection between sacral and the heart, and how we can start to alchemize, particularly the force of desire that could kind of get us into places of binding or limitation. So, this looks like, hey, I desire this thing. I don't know, we might start getting into places of shame or guilt, or maybe it's just not working for us. And we're like, what the heck? Like, then we start to feel attached and like, oh, like pained. But there's actually, so this would be like one of those obstacles, right? Instead of getting in that place of pain, and we might have to go there and feel a little bit of that kind of like breaking open suffering, but really what that leads to is the transformation, the alchemizing into higher understanding, wisdom, beauty, and light. And I share a bit about how to work with that. So I hope you check it out. Um, Reach out to me if you want to find out how to find it. Again, it's coming out July 22nd. But for this month, this was kind of one of the themes about learning how to work with this force, particularly in our sacral chakra, of our creative energy, our sexual energy, our desires, and what we dream, want for our lives. It's like, what is your heart longing for? And part of the wisdom that was coming through with this question of like, what are you longing for? What is your heart desiring? Is that this is meant to be like a force of transformation, like our desires, our longings, our dreams are guiding us. They are not the destination necessarily. And this is one place where we can get a little stuck or tripped up. They're like, I had this vision, I want to create this thing, and I have so much energy for it, and I want it. And then it's like, maybe it doesn't work, or it just feels challenging and hard. You trip up a lot, or you like judge yourself, or you feel just like stuck. Sometimes that's because we have kind of too much of this like strong focus on this end result rather than actually what the guides are saying this month is that this energy is being worked with. We all are all deepening in our relationship with this energy of which we all have a connection to. We all carry our own creative energy. Um, we're learning how to work with it in a way that helps us to basically come into higher truth, higher love, um, more wholeness. Okay, there's a little bit more on that. Yes, so dreams and desires exist so we may become whole was like one of the very clear phrases that I heard. And basically what they're doing, particularly in the month of June, this is alive. Um, they're like activating these dormant aspects of our strength, of our power, of our light, and our kind of ability to work with creation, to co-create. So both our own creative energy and then working with with Great Spirit, with all of life. Um, that's the co-creation piece. So we are all learning on a deeper level something. So there's some gift in this, and it will reflect and basically like birth or release or point you to an aspect of yourself. So the desire, the dream, isn't necessarily the end result. It's more about this becoming whole, about finding our power and learning how to work with it as a force of spiritual growth and transformation and self-discovery. Yeah, so you might notice this coming up in kind of one of those ways. You might feel this like rush of energy that is just like new. So the guides recommend, first of all, what I just spoke of being cautious not to attach too much to the end results, because that will kind of get you stuck on the obstacle piece, and also to work with the energies of organization, networking, making connections, implementing, so we can move this creative energy. Or if there's like another way that moves it for you, but basically find some way to start working with it and moving that energy so that it's bringing those kind of dormant strengths to the surface, so that you're working with it. And again, it's like a flowing creative process, not end result, that we want to be engaging with. Okay. Mm. And along with this, they also talk about how we are working with relationships at a deeper level in June. And there's some openings and opportunities for us to do that. In particular, they talked about this like an opening for humanity to integrate a greater understanding of what relationships are for us. So some of the structuring around relationships is being transformed and shifted. And it's a good thing. It might feel a little awkward or strange because there are things that are breaking down that aren't necessarily true. Um, and one word that came through twice in readings or connected to this is like non-traditional. That there are these non-traditional ways that are coming in that are actually in a bit more alignment for for a short bit in the future. It's always, growing and transforming the way that we relate with each other, or every aspect of humanity is evolving, changing. Sometimes seems like it's devolving, but my understanding is that it's not actually. That's just a force that is present always that we work with. Um, so the guides talk about how relationships are sacred. They're reflective mirrors for us to also, just as we're talking about with the creative, sexual energy and desire, reflect us and help us to access deeper aspects of ourselves. But there are ways that we have kind of constructed that we are to say like engage in relationship that we've outgrown. It's like fine for how it has been. And they said there's like some particular focus on romantic relationships for this message and for this month. So like thinking about concepts like soulmates and celibacy and um, celibacy and monogamy and kind of like the nuclear family and just sort of like the constructs of how we have decided we come into romantic relationship and what's on the fringe of what we've decided. Um, they're not saying like one way necessarily is better than the other. It's more that there's a transformation going on. And, my understanding when there are transformations going on, it's usually, it ends up, like kind of not how we think. It's not this like black and white. It's either as we've done it before or, some other way that we don't agree with. There's a lot of energy moving and a lot of potential. So just be open to whatever forces are moving for you and your relationships, but especially romantic relationships. And this is kind of building off of the message about working with desire and your dreams and sexual creative energy. Um, so looking at those places of like, what do I want? It might be changing for you. Um, you might be learning to relate to your relationships in a different way and the way that you are in relationship and how you want to be and like what you're growing into. And honestly, even if nothing on the outside changed, this is still an internal force. So you could experience really powerful transformation without I don't know, like blowing up your life or changing anything physically in your relationships. It's more about, again, this internal process and our own kind of growth of our light and our power and yeah, our spiritual growth. Um, okay. Oh, and this, I have to share this one beautiful line that came through as I was hearing about this. Every love is a reflection of your own wholeness and immanence. So, relationships are pointing us, reflecting our light within, and helping us find our way. And that's why and how they are sacred and beautiful, beautiful to work with. Okay. There's a lot that's kind of stemming from this one, like working with the sacral energy. So next I'll go down the path of they were talking about working with shame and judgment. So they talk about how there's an availability for us all to kind of work deeper with some layers of shame. And this might show up in your romantic relationships or your relationship with your sacral energy, or it might show up in other places. The message was not tied necessarily to that one specific expression. However, there's an opportunity. And they say that it's a good month to have clearing of shame. And this doesn't mean, too, that it's just going to kind of disappear and never come back. But there's a new layer available for wherever you're at, where you can work with this energy that's up in the collective to clear a bit deeper into, um, yeah, like move out some of the shame that could be under the surface there. Um, so, on this, what they were kind of expanding upon was an idea of purity shifting. And particularly, they're talking about um, places this has shown up in religion. We have like certain ideas of what it means to be pure and good, and how these ideas have actually brought us into a place of shame most often. I mean, unless we're, like awake to that, which I'm sure if you're here, you are. um, However, it's not so much, this is like kind of a lesson on that, but this is saying there's more shifting with that. And how are you a part of that shift? What do you need to do within yourself, working with shame and purity and goodness, particularly how that goodness looks in religion? Um, but even certain aspects of morality or like severe lack of morality, like how do those come into play and where's your center and what feels more right for you? Um, what are ways that you can clear out and work with some of that shame? So, in this too, there was like especially some call or guidance to work with the internal feminine energy, the sensuality. Um, and one of the pieces that was shared was true purity is the strength of your connection to love and to the divine. True goodness is the strength of your connection to love and the divine. And this is, mm, it's kind of like a resource that you can tune into in working with this shame, because there's a part of you, your soul, that knows your goodness, that knows your purity, regardless of kind of anything. There's a place in you that is sacred, whole, can't be touched. And the more that you start to access that, the more that starts to be embodied in your life. Um, so, invitation to connect to that part of yourself that is known by you, is known by the higher you, that is known by the divine, so that you can allow that to start to clear out places that get you into shame. And then also judgment. We're speaking of judgment. We might be judging ourselves, might be judging others, and there's a time for us to use our mind to come into discernment. That's all really important. And I don't mean to say that we shouldn't go there. But basically, this is kind of a message of like, stay in your own lane a little bit. No, like when you're coming from a place of judgment, there's usually some like a grippy feeling with it. It's like one of those powers that could bind. It's like the rock that's there and that we want to fight, instead of just like, oh, okay, I gotta work with this. It and we could get to that, like, like, I don't like this, or that's what that judgment feels like. Whereas we alchemize that by bringing in some of that higher knowing of ourselves. So connecting to the place in us that knows our own goodness, for example, and sees clearly, and allowing that to just kind of form in our perception. Because one of the other ways that we might get tripped up is, say we don't have clarity right away, and then we're just like, oh, I don't understand it, and then it actually builds more tension. Whereas we could say, oh, this is a process. This is guiding me towards something. Here it is. I'm judging. Um, okay. Yeah. What's next? What else can I see about this? And you kind of just allow that clarity to come. You allow it to land. You trust that there is something happening, and you're going to kind of keep flowing. You're going to kind of keep aligning yourself so that you can witness it, rather than coming to that place of like judgy anguish. And when you alchemize that force, what it feels like is the clarity, the discernment, the alignment, and usually you have a sense of peace about it. It might mm, take a little time to get there, because we're going to have our own emotions attached to things, and our emotions are part of the process. Just like, our desires, our dreams, I want this, is part of what's guiding us. So when we get stuck in the judgment, we could be getting stuck in the emotion that is meant to guide us, but not, we're not supposed to like live there. um, I'm laughing because when I was hearing this message, there was just like this very, it must have been, I don't know who, maybe like Archangel Michael or something. Just don't judge. That's it. Don't judge. Easy. No problem, right? No, but like how simple that is, actually does bring us to that energy of clarity, and helps us kind of alchemize the places where we are getting stuck in judgment. Um, which brings us into suffering, which brings us into the places of lack of clarity, and we don't know how to alchemize it for the better. We're just like resisting life, and instead of co-creating with life, instead of working with life. um, which brings me to, let me just double check if there's anything else about purity, shame, judgment I wanted to say. Okay, I think that's good. So next word that was coming through was simplicity. Um, Yeah, so I thought perfect moment to share that as I was sharing the don't judge message because it was so simple. And not that, okay, things aren't complex in life or layered, and it is very important to kind of look through the depths of things. But sometimes we are kind of getting ourselves wrapped up. We're just kind of tunneling in so many directions that we create these big knots for ourselves. And it's just like too complicated and complex. So we might be not really living within our human body and our human perspective and our center where we need to be. Um, so guides are talking about June, a particularly helpful force is simplicity and seeing how you can bring that in. Particularly, they're talking about like mental and emotional simplicity. And they're saying this is almost like a counterbalancing force because there's a tremendous amount of growth happening, a tremendous amount of transformation at an incredibly fast rate, probably faster than it's been in anyone's lifetime. Um, that's the energy. And again, going back to what I said earlier, we might not always notice these things on the outside, but that's how they describe the energies that are present for everyone now. I think most of us feel it. We know that that's going on, and we are noticing things in our lives that are changing. We're just like, well, but because there's so much energy, they're saying there's an importance to come back to simplicity, to come back to connecting to the living spirit, um, the energy that's alive right now. There's also just so much information that we have access to that this is growing us really fast. And mm, yeah, the second important piece there is staying connected to the living spirit. So with this, mm, sometimes when we're taking in information from the outside, we can start to lose our center a little bit and get pretty much overwhelmed, saturated. There's just like so much growth happening, so much information out there that we end up falling off the center. And we can notice this because, mm, say, addiction comes up for one. Um, we might be sort of too interested in what's novel rather than what's real. We might see this in ourselves or others. Depression, anxiety, definitely. Um, yeah, and just kind of as the energies transform, how we anchor into spirit, which again is alive. It's a moving energy. It's not a stagnant place that we connect to. It's a process, again, not a destination, something we're always working with to cultivate. And the challenge now is like, because of this huge transformation, it can be destabilizing. And we're like, how do we connect to that? Where to go? How do I find it? What's like, we want to connect to the authentic, to the real, to the living spirit, rather than just like follow the grooves that we have. And most of us probably are starting to feel some of those grooves feel a little bit like disconnected or stale. Whereas before they didn't, they helped us connect. So if you're noticing that, it's not that you can't connect. It's just that, hey, we're going through this period of transformation. And again, the message with this is coming back to simplicity, like coming back to your breath, coming back to nature, and just finding a place to be, simplify, because that starts to actually like clear out all of that noise and allow what's true to just reveal itself. And it allows the energies to flow as they need to. When we're like efforting so hard to say, hold that living spirit, then we're coming out of simplicity. When we have tons of information in our field, then we can come out of the simplicity, and it creates that resistance again to the obstacles rather than just like allowing the energy to flow where it needs to go. Nothing is going to flow away from you that you're not meant to work with. Now, of course, in this, there's also like discipline, and we can get out of alignment with that if we're like, oh, just, I don't care, I'm going to simplify, or, like spiritual bypassing, kind of pushing something out of your mind. That's not necessarily the message. This is like clear, present, simple, and giving things some time to emerge and process and clarify, and knowing that you're okay in that process. Maybe backing off from all the like information, maybe backing off from the things that seem to feed, say, depression, anxiety, addiction. Um, and it can be tricky, but also working with the sacral chakra and your dreams and your desires and your creative energy is helpful for that. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one little piece here. Alchemy was one of the words that was coming forward as kind of a theme of what we're working with in June, or what we can work with. And I've said this word probably like 10 times already today, but I just want to come back to bring specific focus to it. So basically, the understanding of this is that we have the power to co-create with the divine, co-create with our souls, co-create with life, with the energy of life. And this doesn't mean that we have kind of conscious, especially control over everything. Uh, but it does mean that we have access to a power and to a wisdom that knows how to work with life. And there is an open June for everyone to know that in a deeper way. So this force of working with the unlimited in particular they spoke about. So the unlimited is like the non-physical aspect of us, our spirit and the divine. And there's a reaching that's happening right now for, and you might be feeling it. You might feel these kind of like rushes of creative energy running through you, or like rushes of desire, or just like a high level of um, energy. That you're like, this wants to do something. And if you are, it's like, this is especially for you, that you can work with that in a way that alchemizes for just goodness, for something brighter for you. And it's really not even, again, about that destination or the end result of what is brighter, but it's about you being brighter. It's about you being more yourself, you experiencing more of the beauty and the juiciness of creation and of your own light in this bodily expression. You know, and one of the things they were saying along with this is that sometimes we forget that kind of, we either forget or we get afraid of that everything can change in an instant. And in this, we limit ourselves. And often this limitation is built in the constructs of the mind and our emotions, or aka fear, usually. Um, and these are around, like what is possible and typically keeping us safe. Um, so, with this kind of working with the creative energy and our power and alchemy, there's an understanding of wisdom that came forward about kind of looking at some of these mental emotional constructs that might be limiting us from um, something greater for ourselves, that basically bind us on the journey or keep us a little stuck. So the question that they were bringing forward is like, well, what's possible? What kind of miracles or alchemy are actually possible for me? Like maybe there's just way more than I'm believing right now. And as you start to just like open your energy up to that a little bit, you might notice some cool things come in. Um, so there's also this line they gave here with alchemy. Alchemy is an energy that helps us to understand the capacity for things to shift for the better or in an instant. I'll let you sit with that. Okay, just checking in. One more thing to share here today. Um, okay, so this last message connects a little bit to one of the recommendations that was coming up in working with your creative energy of organizing, networking, making connections, implementing. So basically, like taking action to move creative energy. Um, so this message branched off of that a little bit. They're talking about divine order. And so this like organizing, ordering, kind of just trying to put this energy into motion in your life coming forward. And they're saying as we do this, there's something that's being affected on a greater level with the kind of human order and human law. So there's a divine order and there's a divine law, and then there's human order and human law. And there's an opportunity in June through working with our own creative energy to start to bring some of that divine order, divine law into the world. So we each have, say, our own part in this by working with our creative energy. And it's cool because a lot of us actually, one of the forces that kind of can clog up our creative energy is this human order and human law that doesn't really jive with what we feel is right for ourselves or with divine order and law. And think about, particularly in this, um, like limitations that have been set about what is good, what is right, what's okay, what you're supposed to do. And ones in particular that maybe aren't aligned to divine law. So first of all, they also wanted to say that um, divine law, divine order can't really be destroyed. So we can kind of fall into those places of like humans doing weird things, making some weird decisions that maybe aren't so good for us, imposing them on other people, imposing them as kind of a general standard of what's good and right and helpful. And basically that no matter what happens there, it's part of the evolution, and the divine order and law can't ever really be destroyed. It's what truly exists. It's what, like when all the facade is gone, when energy starts to move, it's always there, which means it's a resource that you can always tap into and call upon in your life. And it's good to do that, especially this month and working with your creativity, working with any layers of shame where you don't feel good, like, okay, did a bad thing, or this person did a bad thing. When you're getting into judgment of what's good and bad, particularly based on that human divine law. And, keep your mind open too, because there might be shifts for you in what you think is right, or um, as that divine order integrates more into you and your system. And be open to that, as a gift. Mm. Yeah. Okay. That is good for today. I want to thank you so much for listening, and I will post as always. Um, oh, we just started sharing these videos actually on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, this is the Oracle report is done live in the Sacred Lights community in Mighty Networks every month. And if you join in live, I always do leave some space at the end for anyone who's here and might like a free mini reading. But you can join in live from Sacred Lights. And I also post in Sacred Lights the full card description and image for you to kind of read further and check into in your own time. Today, I actually read most of that card description because it's shorter, but typically they're longer. So checking out that post would give you a chance to read the rest of it, but minimally just give you a chance to digest it and kind of see what words might resonate or stick out that have something to share with you. And I welcome there as well any questions that you have or anything that you want to share about how this information landed with you or what came up for you during the month. I love hearing about these things. So feel free to send me a message. Um, yeah, and I think that is all for today. So thank you so much for joining. Many blessings for June. Happy solstice, and I'll see you next time.